Ben Simmons says he's good to go. But one star thinks otherwise. As a whole, Ben Simmons has been a rather controversial player in certain ways. He absolutely has some big skills that he can use on the court. But this time in Philadelphia was mirrored in its final years, especially in the playoffs where he would disappear in key moments. Then he gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets in a major deal and does nothing because he was too injured to go and play apparently. Rumors were that he'd return for the playoffs, but that didn't happen, and the Nets definitely could have used him. And now he's getting called out for what happened. What he said in the playoffs. Let's start this off. Not with the comments against him, but the comments by him. Because in the first round of the playoffs, the Nets were going to go up against the red-hot Boston Celtics, a team that went from dregs to superstars over the course of a few months, and got the number 2 seed in the playoffs as a result. Simmons was out for the regular season, but there were rumors going around that he could have showed up for the playoffs, and he himself enforced that. "If I could play right now, I'd be on the court," Simmons said at the Nets practice facility one time. "I can't tell you definitely. Game 4, Game 3. His coach, Steve Nash, laughed that off. But Simmons kept going and said that he'd work well with his teammates. "It's a good challenge, but now I'm looking forward to it," Simmons said, "especially playing with these guys. I think for me, my IQ's high too, so, play the guys like Kyrie Irving, and Seth, Curry, and Kevin Durant. Just watch them. I know how they play. I know how they want to play. I think we'll be fine, personally," Simmons said. "There's some things on defense where, I look at it and I think I can make a big impact in terms of just being vocal on the floor and helping my teammates and being a leader on that side of the court." Dealing with this back injury isn't unfamiliar to him, so he's not concerned about the long-term prospects. He said doing Pilates has become a constant through his career, and he doesn't want to rush the process just because he's had a good couple days in a row. That margin for error can be dangerously thin, so Nash didn't put a lot of weight or pressure in Simmons' potential return. "I don't know," Nash said when asked what he could expect to see. "Does anyone here have the answer to that? We'll just be happy to have Ben playing. We're not here sitting and counting the minutes until Ben's back. If he's ready, he's ready. If he's not, he's not. We want him to play when he's ready to play." And that brings us to the irony portion of our show. That's because there were rumors that Simmons could return in Game 5 or 6 of this series. The problem? The Celtics swept the Nets 4-0, so thus the door was slammed shut on Simmons, and due to that, fans and the Nets team will have to go and wait on Simmons once more, and hope that by the beginning of next season, his back is at 100%. Which is apparently a sticking point for one legendary player, Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal heatedly pointed out on national TV that Ben Simmons punked the Brooklyn Nets when he refused to play due to an ailing back. Before the news broke, Simmons had been doing dribbling drills, shooting, and dunking during practice. On The Big Podcast with Shaq, the Hall of Fame big man explained why the Australian has lost credibility among many fans. Here's how he weighed in on Simmons' situation. "See, back is the only thing that doctors can't really diagnose. You can diagnose a knee, an ankle, a hand, but back, you can't diagnose. When somebody says their back's hurt, you gotta believe them. But your back can't hurt if you're jumping up and down. Your back can't hurt if you're doing all this. Is your back maybe sore? Yeah, everybody's back's sore. I ain't playing in 15 years. My back and my knees and my ankles are sore. That's why people don't respect a guy like that." In the last few years, Simmons has alternated between mental issues and back problems as reasons for refusing to play. Ultimately, when the Nets were on the ropes, needing all the help they could get, the two reasons eventually became one. The former All-Star met with the Nets front office before Game 4 to inform them that his mental health issues are tied to his back troubles. Simmons will now have the whole summer to get both his mind and body right. If it can be right at all, that is. Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, Tim Legler, and Stephen A. Smith ripped Simmons for the absurdity of his reasons and the timing of the injury. The fans. Shaquille O'Neal contends that one does not even have to be a basketball fan to know that Ben Simmons is punking everyone. His situation is something everyone can relate to. particularly when it comes to showing up for work. Here's how Shaq illustrated Big Ben's controversial issues. This is why people are upset and don't respect Ben. I see a guy on his phone. I see a lovely lady on that computer. They work hard, probably would never see $2 million. They're tired, their back hurt. You don't hear them complaining. They're not allowed to complain. So why can't a guy that makes $30 million because his back is sore, how come he can't go to work? If your back is hurting, you can't walk. O'Neal previously vowed, also on national TV, to hold back his criticism of Simmons. But the three-time Finals MVP apparently can no longer hold back his anger and frustration at what he perceived the Nets star was doing. So in short, Ben Simmons broke the metaphorical back of Shaq, and he's paying the price for it. But if you really think about it, Shaq and others have had seriously valid points. The woes of Ben Simmons. For a true gauge of how bad it's gotten over the years, you need only look at his end times with Philadelphia before he got moved to the Nets. During his last season, he said he was either injured or he wouldn't play with the team. And this alienated a lot of people, not the least of which was his coach, Doc Rivers. It's a predicament that we're in, and that part is no fun. It really isn't, Rivers said. We get to play right now, and Ben is not. I want Ben to be playing. That's his job. Rivers ejected Simmons from a practice after he refused to participate in a drill, and the team quickly suspended him from the opener of the season. After the announcement, Rivers said his phone lit up with texts of support, but the experience is not something he wants to celebrate. Obviously, you don't want any of those things. You get a lot of texts, great job, and all this stuff, and it's not, Rivers said. I don't think people understand. You want all your players to do well. You cheer for your players, even when they're in a tough spot. You want it to go well for them. You do. When you're put in positions like Tuesday, it's no fun. And that, in many ways, sums up what people say it's like to play with Ben Simmons. It's no fun, and now the Nets get to deal with that as he is their problem now. Can Ben Simmons turn this around? That is honestly a question that we can't answer. Why? Because we don't know what he'll do next. To that end, we don't know how things are going to play when he gets on the court with the Nets. Remember, he hasn't played a single minute with Kyrie or Kevin Durant, and so they might not mesh at all. And if his injuries, mental or physical, come back, that'll just hurt the situation even more. So what's going to happen with Ben Simmons? You're going to have to ask him about that. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Ben Simmons and what Shaq had to say about him? Do you think that Ben Simmons will ever be able to get on the NBA court? Or do you think that his injuries, like others out there in the NBA, are going to hinder him from ever truly being the player he could have been at one time? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.